So my name is Jason Bauche. I am a registered psychologist. I've been a psychologist since 2006. I completed my education primarily at University of Calgary. Have a master's in science. I've worked in the field of addictions and community mental health. I have worked in private practice or in a private clinic where I did psychoeducational assessments and worked with learners, mainly K-12 system. But for the last 12 years, since 14, almost 15 years, I've been in the post-secondary system working with university and polytechnic students. Well, I think people should prioritize whatever is important to them. And that could be any number of things. Some people want to, the relationship that a client has with a therapist is fundamental. So the client has to feel respected and supported and like they trust the person that they're working with, and doesn't have any kind of barriers to opening up with them. And so the client might prioritize gender, they might prioritize cultural backgrounds, they might prioritize sexual orientation. Maybe they care most about the experience and what the therapist can prove that they've done in the past with clients with the presenting issue, for example. But the main thing is that the client should be looking for a fit. Even in an agency where you call a main line and you're assigned a therapist, that person should, if they have a preference and a priority, they should state that preference and priority. I would be most comfortable talking with someone from South Asia, if that's available, or with someone who's a female or male, what have you. So just knowing that you can ask for that, I think is important. So stigma around mental health, I believe that there are three types of stigma. There is stigma that's related to whether I think someone would think less of me if they knew that I had sought mental health support or had a mental health condition. There's whether I would think less of someone else if I learned that they had a mental health condition or sought mental health support. And then there's what I think of myself if I reach out for help. What the research suggests is that people, the stigma about our perception of someone else seeking mental health support or having a mental health condition, that's reducing. So people are more accepting of others if they learn that they're struggling. But we still hold the idea that others might think less of us. And we also still hold ourselves to really poor standards, I think, when we look at seeking support for a mental health condition as a weakness, which relates to some misconceptions that we have around mental health, which kind of relate back to the stigma. It's not a weakness to ask for help. We don't expect ourselves to recover from breaking our leg. We don't look at insulin, having to take insulin if we're diabetic. We don't look at that as a weakness. So I don't understand necessarily why we look at medications that are meant and designed to help us have better balance in our brain and neurochemistry. That's not a weakness either. By experiencing the issue or not being able to kind of get myself out of it, it reflects a weakness on my part. And so as I was talking about with the stigma, we don't expect ourselves to automatically or naturally or on our own recover from a physical health concern. And so we shouldn't expect that when we have a mental health concern. That there's a belief that people with some mental illnesses are a danger to society because of their unpredictability or whatever. And every once in a while, someone with a mental health condition like schizophrenia or autism spectrum disorder, the media reports that they are living with that condition as part of their reporting. We don't necessarily report, I don't know, what grades they got in school and associate that, people with C grades are more likely to, stab people. But it does create this perception that people with specific mental health conditions, like often it's autism spectrum disorder, schizophrenia, that kind of cause our reactions to think that people who live with those conditions are dangerous, when in fact they're more likely to experience violence than to commit violence. Another stigma, I think, is that we should only reach out for treatment when the problem is really severe, which relates to that. I mean, we all want to be autonomous and believe that we can take care of ourselves, but sometimes when we wait to seek support, I don't know, just like if I wait, I hurt my back and I wait until, 6 weeks of back pain, right? Now my knee is probably also damaged, and my hip, right? Because it's compensating for my back. And so if you just reach out for help earlier and don't expect yourself to recover from a back injury, you won't have all these other secondary things. And that's the same as mental health as well. A few things about therapy, I think, that are misconceptions. It's not the same as talking to a friend. Your therapist might not always just support you. Your therapist should be supportive, but your therapist might also challenge you. Your therapist can't, if they're an ethical therapist, they can't befriend you. They will be friendly while you're in the office, but they're not your friend. And you'll get out of counseling what you put into it. Therapy is not something that's done to you. It's not a passive process where you just show up and things are done like in a doctor's office. You are probably going to collaborate with your therapist to develop some strategies to approach things differently. And the more you practice those things, the more skilled you become at them. And that's where really the change comes in. It's not just from talking provides that relief. Someone has witnessed my pain, they've accepted my pain, they've supported my pain, but that's not really where the change comes in. Navigating the mental health system is very challenging. People know that they need to look for a doctor. You can't always find a family doctor, but they know that that's where they need to look. And it's all pretty centralized, right? And if it's not centralized, then you go to a walk-in clinic if you don't have a doctor. And unfortunately, the mental health care system is not like that. It's not integrated with our healthcare system. And so, knowing where to turn for support is probably one of the biggest challenges. Interestingly, you can talk to your medical doctor about your mental health concerns, and perhaps they're not going to treat them in the doctor's office, but they should be able to provide, like most of us have access to that as a portal into this other thing. One's a phone line. It's called Access Mental Health. It's for Calgary, and Calgary 211 is like you can phone, text, or go on a website for Calgary 211. And the great things about those services are that you basically just type in what you're looking for, and some options will come up. It can still be really daunting to navigate because all of these options come up and you don't really know who's on the other side of the line. Or I hope that people will trust that whatever's next is probably better than whatever's happening that's leading you to look for the support. And you don't have to live in in the pain that you're going through. Well, reducing stigma is a slow process. Any cultural shift is very slow. And I know that the way we think about mental health is very different now than what it was, 20, 30 years ago. When I was a psychology student in my undergrad, I went through something very difficult. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to reach out for help. I just didn't even pay attention to that help was available. And, the school that I went to didn't make a big deal of making us know that support was available. And now at, post-secondary orientations in K-12 system, it's kind of integrated into your success. It's integrated into your well-being. And more people are talking about it. And that's really how that changes, how stigma changes, is that, and people who we look up to. I'm a big tennis fan, and Madison Keys she won the Australian Open and talked very openly about how she would kind of lose it during matches and get really nervous and lose matches that she was winning, and important therapy was to her, and Naomi Osaka, and not just tennis players, but lots of other really visible people in our society are talking about their experiences, and then that sort of makes it okay, makes it more okay that we're going through those things too. I usually look at culture very broadly, and anything that's related to identity, anything that we hold to be close and defining in our identity is culture. But there are some, and within a culture, there's a vast amount of differences. Not everyone who's a newcomer is going to believe the same things. Not everyone who's Indigenous. There's heterogeneity in all of our First Nations. So making sweeping statements about any particular culture is a bit dangerous, but there are some commonalities. So, for example, in Indigenous communities, interaction with healthcare systems and systems in general has not usually or not often been positive. And so there's perhaps a little bit of mistrust in reaching out to those very systems that have been a negative influence in their communities. There would be a natural resistance. The other part is that the beliefs or the values and beliefs that kind of our mental health care systems are based on Western colonial ideas that might not fit with how Indigenous communities view wellness and well-being, right? We're not using their medicines and their those historical experiences, colonial experiences, might be a barrier to help seeking. For newcomers, I also think that there's a vast difference. Like, is the newcomer an immigrant? They're pursuing permanent residency, they're an international student emigrating, or is the newcomer a refugee? Are they asylum seeking, right? Their experiences are going to be vastly different and are going to influence, their mental health and their help seeking. But in a lot of other cultures, perhaps, there are many ways that Western culture is not better than other cultures. But in the advancement and openness around mental health, I would say that is one way that we're maybe a step ahead of some other cultures where it's not spoken about as openly. In working with international students, often there's this relief. They're kind of younger than their parents, and they hold different beliefs. They've been exposed to different ideas, and now that they're away from their parents, they can reach out for that support that they wouldn't have been able to back home. We all experience sadness, grief, anxiety, stress. We are wired to experience those things. Those are universal human experiences, and they're not necessarily signs of a mental health concern. If I have an experience that is stressful, it is actually healthy to experience stress. If I have an experience that is sad and I don't experience anything, that's not positive. So the difference between mental health concern and an emotion is that the emotion has a reason, it has a source. The difference might also be that my reaction is reasonable. It's not out of keeping with the event that occurred. It's not disproportionate to the event that occurred. I can go on with my day-to-day functioning. So a mild mental health concern is one that, with your natural coping strategies and supports and resources, it tends to sort of remit on its own. The same as, if you have a flu, you stay home, you rest, you get fluids, maybe you take a congestant, and your symptoms go away, right? If that's happening, then you have experienced a mild mental health concern, right? Or you're having a difficult time adjusting to the constant barrage of, again, I work in post-secondary, the constant barrage of assignments, and no control over due dates and difficult group context that students go through. It's a stressful experience. So you will experience stress. If you're not handling your stress well, you're not sleeping, you're not eating well, you're yelling at your group mates, you're not getting along with people, then you might want to reach out for support to develop some strategies to. Anyway, our brain really is, it's a wonderful machine. It's a wonderful problem-solving machine. And what it's looking for is an explanation for what we're experiencing. Do I have a reason for this feeling? So, I'm an international student, I'm away from everything, I've got all these pressures to succeed, and I'm not used to anything. I don't know anyone. Should I feel always excited? I should probably feel stressed sometimes, right? I might feel alone, I might feel lost. And you can reach out. You don't have to wait until those problems occur, right? If you want to reach out for support, reach out for support. There are walk-in counseling clinics, not many, a couple that do amazing service. One is Eastside Family Center in the northeast of Calgary. The other is the South Calgary Health Center and the Distress Center also. If you're experiencing distress, nothing is too small to call is one of their mottos. So you don't have to be in high distress. You don't have to be suicidal to reach out to the Distress Center. They might not spend an hour on the phone with you, but they're going to direct you to other resources available to you. Something that I actually just learned about that's called Rapid Access Counseling Calgary. So that also is, you can find that on this portal, which is YYC Community Connect, I think. And it's another one of those services that you browse among the topics and click on what seems right for you. A lot of those services, the South Calgary Health Center, Eastside, and in some cases, the Rapid Access are also free services. Distress Center phone calls, they're not going to find you and find your credit card. It's a free service. Might not be ongoing counseling, but it's a step into that system. I wish that people viewed their mental health the way that they view all of their health. So maybe I didn't until I was about 30. I didn't go for an annual physical. Probably should have before then. But now I go every year. Of course, I go to my doctor, I'll call my doctor when something's wrong, but I also go just as preventative. We get our teeth cleaned twice a year. We get our eyes checked, right? And these are things that, in many cases are not as vital to our life and death as mental health can be. But we kind of just assume that it's fine. We also we also take care of our teeth. We take care of our health. We know that we're not going to just be healthy if we don't eat properly, if we don't exercise, if we don't, do the things that maintain our health. And we don't manage our mental health in the same way. If you ask someone what they did today to improve their mental health, they might not have an answer, but they brushed their teeth. So I think that we need to be more mindful of taking care of ourselves, but also of just checking in it could be with a professional a couple times a year just to check up on how things are going. Maybe I go in for a relationship checkup. I go for a couple session, right? That's easier said than done if you have insurance, right? Your insurance is just sitting there. You can use your insurance. I don't need a massage, but I go get one. So on one hand, I think that we should reach out more often. We certainly should reach out before something gets big, before it gets out of hand, before it starts affecting multiple areas of life, because then we have to spend time as a therapist, we have to spend time putting those things back together before we can prevent them happening again. In some settings, it's not like that though. Some settings, the resources are quite a lot more limited, like the hospital setting. With school settings, can't meet with University of Calgary can't meet with 30,000 students twice a year, right? Just can't. So in those settings, you maybe just want to be checking in with yourself. How am I doing? How are things going? How's my sleep? How's my mood? Am I taking good care of myself? Are the things that I do to feel good, are they helping me to feel good? And if not, then that's when to go get help. Our brain really is, it's a wonderful machine. It's a wonderful problem-solving machine. And what it's looking for is an explanation for what we're experiencing.